There we go.
Professor, is there any way I could ask a question?
Yeah, Isabella. Yes.
For the supersized me paragraph, is it okay if it's a total of like 800 words, more or less?
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's answering the questions, the prompts that are in the paragraphs, then it doesn't really matter how many words you use, right?
Yeah, okay, I think so. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, fine. So here we are starting our week 5, our second, I guess I want to say quarter of our semester, because we've got like 4, 4, 4, and 4, pretty much 16 weeks if we count our final week. And so this, I was just saying that we covered what is healthy behavior change, mysteries of the brain, psychosocial health, stress, and cardiovascular disease and cancer. And then this portion, we're going to be covering things that have to do with nutrition, as Isabella brought up about the Supersize Me, watching that film and reading into it a little bit more than just, what Morgan Spurlock did to mess with his health. What message was really there, and what was he trying to convey to us, and what did we get out of it, even beyond what his intent was. And then the fitness awareness, aging optimally, and what impact can the environment have. So it's kind of a shorter month, it feels like. And then the 4th week, we always just review and then do the assessment itself. Did everything go okay with the first assessment for you all? You probably ran across the duplicates that I think I mentioned to you. Thank you, Alexis. The duplicates, and then the multiple choice being, like when it says it's more than, when that it's more than one, then you just, because the way that Canvas is formatted, I wasn't able to do A, B, C, D in order. They mixed it up. So, so we're working with it. So I'd like to share my screen then and just briefly go through the slides that we have for the topic of nutrition, weight management, fitness, and then, well, I don't want to cover everything in one day. And then I'm going to augment this month also with the financial talk that I had mentioned earlier before I started recording this. So I'm going to go ahead and share my content then. And here we go.
A quick question. Where do we turn in that one assignment of like the health, what was it? The nutrition presentation? We have to like do a report, because there isn't anything on Canvas about it.
We don't really have the only thing we have is the Zoom, the Zoom, I'm sorry, what was it? I'm reading at the same time as I'm trying to talk. That doesn't work for me. So we have the Supersize Me, and then we have, ultimately we'll be making our own research paper, doing our own research on a topic of genuine interest to us. So those are the only two. Other than that, there's not really a maybe for the, let me see, for one of the, let me look at our modules here. Because you may be are you referring to a particular assignment that had to do with, whoop, gotta wait a second. Okay, now they're listed. Okay, behavior change, say, brain film, stress management, diabetes, Supersize Me. Oh, was it this one, Alexis, the personal goal sheet and workout plan, or not?
You sent out like an email about like there being a presentation from a dietary intern, something like that, dietitian intern.
Oh,
from Cal
right.
Poly Pomona.
Yeah, that's right. That she, I think it's a female that will be at the health center. But okay, so you have like a paragraph to submit about your experience with that?
I thought we had to do that. I'm not sure, because there wasn't anything on Canvas.
I I hope I use this term, you can see it on my screen right now, experiential achievement 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those. That's what I intended it to be. I hope you found it worthwhile, but you'll have earned 20 points in just writing about that experiential achievement.
There's nowhere like to turn it in. Do I just like email it or?
Just right here. So you can see on my screen, right, that it says here, and you may upload your first experiential achievement you've accomplished. So if you did actually, interact with a dietetic intern, is that what it was? Like, did you have an appointment or something?
I just went to like the presentation.
Oh, okay, she did a presentation. Oh, okay, same thing, just write about what you got from it.
Okay, thank you.
And since you did go, would you mind just telling us what the highlights were of?
Yeah, so essentially like the presentation was titled How to Eat and What to Eat to Boost Immunity. And essentially which foods boost immunity, such as oranges, berries, some bell peppers, sweet potatoes. And there's foods that are actually work against your immunity, usually foods that are like red meats, beef jerky, and highly processed foods and very sugary foods, because they cause inflammation to your cells, make them work harder.
That's right. Yeah, I'm remembering that you talked about that when we were together last week. Yes. So yeah, so go ahead and get experiential achievement credit for it too, while you're at it. And thank you for sharing that. That's right. I remember that it fit in with what I was talking about, having, especially the inflammation and the antioxidants really working to pick up free radicals that change when we got into talking about cancer, that will actually change our cells in our body. So yeah, so that's perfect. So everybody else, just so you know, when I do send those opportunities, it's an opportunity to just do something outside of our course and get credit for it. Does that make sense? Might as well, right? And it broadens your horizons, maybe gives you some ideas about what you might want to do for your research paper that we'll be talking about in week 10. Okay. All right, let's go then. Let's go to the, okay, I got the managing your weight, and then I've got nutrition and you. And was there a third one I was going to? No, this was just my old class trying to find which of these files was the one that Brian gave. So I'll go back to that after we finish our class today, okay? So, did I already go through these slides with you? I know that we talked a lot about it, and I think I was relying heavily on our book at the time that I went into the nutrition and weight management stuff. Do you remember? I don't want to completely bore you guys if I've covered a lot of this or if you picked up on it already, but maybe just an overview, huh? And the other experiential achievement that you can do is to go to choosemyplate.gov and then interact with that. There are different things that you can fill in about your habits, and your behaviors, what you eat and so forth. So with that, then you can also do an experiential achievement. Just give me some feedback on what you actually experienced in that. Oh, I did go through this. I completely remember this about what drives us to eat and how complex it is. I'm pretty sure we went through this. Is it looking familiar? And the fact that our serving sizes are so much larger. So, why we have such an obesity problem as expressed in Super Size Me is due not just to sedentary behaviors, but also because of our, that's why Morgan Spurlock called it Super Size Me, because we did start to really increase the size of everything that we have been eating. So, and then the digestive process, I'm not sure that I went over this so much about how there are essential nutrients that are obtained from food, and then other things that our body actually produces itself that you need. So here's the digestive process from the mouth, the salivary glands, down your esophagus to the liver, the stomach, to the stomach, and then the liver helps to process, metabolize things that you ingest. The pancreas, let's see, it doesn't give a whole lot of information here about the pancreas, the role of that, but the enzymes that are provided by the liver and the pancreas actually help us to be able to use all the nutrients, to benefit our health, overall health. And then the small intestine, large intestine. When we get into talking about alcohol, we'll talk about the role of the stomach and the small intestine as well, the rectum and then the anus. And that water, we need it big time. And
We can't,
have we?
at least I'm wired. We can't see the slides. We can't see your screen.
Oh, thank you for letting me know. I didn't go to, that means I didn't share the screen again. All right, thank you. Did we already talk about the bottled water and how there is a Pacific, have I talked about that? The Pacific, in the Pacific, there is a garbage island full of plastic. I think I brought that up in terms of nutrition too, that the fish that we eat then ends up eating these little tiny particles, microparticles of plastic, and we don't want to ingest that. So I think I brought it up in that context, but you'll see it again here. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. Thank you for letting me know, because with this iPad, I can't see you and the screen at the same time. I have to do one or the other. So here we go. There, okay. So I'm just going to briefly show you what these slides were. And you might remember me going through them before. Nutrition and you, what drives us to eat, all of these things that make it much more complex: hunger, appetite, culture and social meaning attached to food, convenience and advertising, habit or custom, emotional comfort. I love dairy food. I love dairy when I need some comfort food, or soups, hot soups, that kind of thing. The nutritional value drives some of us as well, knowing that, oh, if I have a spinach salad over head lettuce, the kind that looks almost white, that you're doing better things for your body as a result. Social interaction, regional, seasonal trends. So we'll be talking a little bit about in terms of nutrition, that the farmers markets that we go to represent the seasonal trends. So you're getting local foods, even honey, for allergies. I'm told that if we get honey that is local, there is some kind of help for our immune system through having that local honey and being able to actually curtail allergies as a result. So I think that's just phenomenal. So the definition of nutrition is the science of the relationship between physiological functions and the essential elements of food. And the calorie is actually, we fat and calorie, both those two words kind of scare people because they think they're so negative. But the truth is that calorie is just a unit of measure. And what it does scientifically, the way that it was measured or has been measured is that it's just the degrees Celsius. Well, it's the amount of energy that it takes to burn 1 degree Celsius. What is it? 1 mole, or is it 1 millimeter? I'm trying to remember, of water. In other words, it's just thermal energy. Okay. And we're getting that from our nutrition. So we're keeping our bodies warm and keeping them regulated, keeping them at homeostasis. So the calorie is just the unit of measure that indicates the amount of energy that we're obtaining from the food and burning, right? And that what we want for a healthy diet is to have adequate amount of nutrition, all the minerals, vitamins, the protein, the carbohydrates, the fiber, the fruit, the vegetables, to be adequate, to be moderate, okay, instead of over having too many, too big of proportions, and to have it balanced, to have it varied. And I think I might have told you my story about my son, the nutrient dense, when I put it on the refrigerator. Is it nutrient dense? He goes, is it food? So, and these are the estimated caloric needs. So let's say that, you know, the average in our class is somewhere between 19 and 30. So if you are sedentary, meaning that you're not really getting much exercise and maybe parking close to your class instead of up in the parking lot and parking to, you know, wherever you go, that you're not getting the steps that you might have if you parked further away, or if you even live where there are stairs and taking the stairs instead of the elevator, that type of thing. You would be more in the sedentary. And then being more active, you could actually consume about 400 more calories a day and still keep your weight at its present status. And here was the demonstration of how things have changed over 50 years here. You know, the amount of calories that, and the size of the different foods that we eat is just incredible. What's considered a serving size, though, you will discover in choosemyplate.gov that it's smaller than we think. So as long as you get a little bit of everything, you're doing well. So, all right. And I talked about the digestive process. And so this was the picture of that, and about how your mouth prepares for the food by increasing production of saliva, which aids in chewing and swallowing, and contains an enzyme that begins breaking down some carbs. And then it passes down the esophagus. So it uses a peristalsis. So that's like a smooth muscle. Remember when I gave my Prezi presentation, we talked about the cardiac, skeletal, and smooth muscles. So the smooth ones are the ones that typically do the peristalsis, which happens in the esophagus. So it's pushing the food down, you know, through the smooth muscle that's in the esophagus, and same with the intestines. Then the stomach, muscular contractions are happening, and it's broken down. Your food is broken down by enzymes and stomach acids, and then further digestion into smaller pieces in the small intestine. That's one way to remember it, in the small pieces. And then again, the enzymes, but this time the enzymes are coming from the liver and the pancreas by the time it hits your tummy. And then water and salts are resorbed into the system by the large intestine. And then finally, the solid waste moves out into the rectum and is passed out through the anus. So this is why it's so important to stay hydrated, by the way. It really helps with the digestive system as well. And so, yeah, I mean, looking at the fact that our body is 50 to 60, I think it's closer to 60 from the literature that I've seen. And then, yeah, when I talked about dehydration and hyponatremia is a very unusual circumstance, but it can occur with people who are, it seems to combine itself with people who exercise a whole lot, that they'll drink a whole lot of water, and then eventually what's happening is that the sodium is being flushed out, which is an electrolyte that our body needs. You might know that Gatorade provides it, again, for athletes who've really burned off a lot of their electrolytes and need to keep that at a constant, rather than, you know, having it be depleted and then you get dizzy and dehydrated just because of the fact that you don't even have the electrolytes that you need, right? And the pH balance. The pH balance refers to how much, the pH is measured by how basic your blood is, or how acidic. So so the water is necessary to keep that in balance so that you're not too acidic or not too basic. And then it helps with transporting cells, molecules, and all the things that it needs to transport to the cells as well. So So yeah, bottled water, I'm just gonna tell you straight out, it's not better. It's not better. You're just paying for the bottle, not the water. Yeah, who's paying the price with the bottled water boom? And you know what? It's still going on. We still have bottled water. So look at that. 18 million barrels of oil and 130 billion gallons of fresh water to make bottled water. And instead, we could be using like reverse osmosis purifiers. I do have one under my sink in my home, in the kitchen. And it does use 2 liters of fresh water running through the system. That was kind of a bummer to find out that it takes 2 liters to get, I don't know how much it yields, but some of it is the reverse osmosis that I have is supposed to recycle and not lose a lot of water in that process, but it can. So you have to kind of look into what unit you're going to use if you go that route, okay? But otherwise, just a straight out, pure, the PUR system or Brita, they just have a system that you can attach to your faucet or just pour into a filtering system in the into a pitcher, so yeah. And then we have been concerned about BPA, but I think that in general, what they say is about the bottled water, if you can you might use it once, but don't leave it in the heat or the sun, because then things are released from the plastic into your water. That is not good for us. Let's see. Bottled water is considered a food and requires less frequent monitoring by the FDA for safety than tap water. So in other words, you do get a report on what is contained in your tap water, but we don't get it for bottled water. So that's kind of weird, huh? And you can ask for that anytime from DWP or GWP, Glendale Water, if you're in Glendale, and ask for a report. And I do get mine, I think it's yearly. I don't think it's twice a year, just because it is being monitored. So yeah. So who pays the price? Okay. So in regard to nutrition, recall that proteins don't necessarily have to come from meat or fish. It can come from other things like beans, and the combination of different things like beans and rice will provide a complete protein for you. So you can see how important it is, because here we're talking about additional protein used in fighting off infection, just as an example. So amino acids are building blocks of protein, and that's why some of the foods that are combined, they're full of amino acid, but not a complete protein, whereas the meats and fishes are actually a complete protein, right? So they supply all the essential amino acids. So again, the proteins or the amino acids can be obtained from different sources to provide the amount of protein that we really need. So here are some examples. Yeah, nuts and seeds, green leafy vegetables and grains. I also have read, and I probably have to check with our dietary intern that we have on campus, that we actually get more iron out of spinach if we wilt it. That there's something about it being broken through the cellulose that releases, that our body can actually use more of the iron that's present in it when it's actually wilted versus fresh. I really like it fresh. And then the different carbohydrates. We know the most common sugar is glucose, and that is what our body often breaks things down. Even proteins can be broken down through the Krebs cycle to the most common form of sugar, which is what our body needs. So I'd mentioned to you that one of the experiential achievements you could do also is to get your lab test done on your blood, and it includes a blood sugar test. So in other words, discovering where you stand with your glucose. How efficiently are you able to use glucose with the amount of insulin that your body is providing to be able to use it in your system. And then fructose is what's found in fruits, as you can guess there. Sucrose is what we often use for, sprinkling into our coffee or whatever, and then lactose is what actually occurs in the milk sugar. It's in milk. And some people are actually lactose intolerant. And sometimes I wonder, like, if it's a part of the milk that people are allergic to, or if it really is the sugar. I guess it depends on the individual. And then we have malt sugar, maltose, which is kind of tasty, actually. I rarely have it. Rarely. I don't think I've had it, like half a dozen times in my life. Then the complex carbohydrates is what we really, really need. Okay. We want that fiber also, in addition to the energy that the carbohydrates provide through. So they're polysaccharides, meaning that there are several links of the different sugars combined together, and your body is using it more slowly. It takes longer to process than the sugars that might go straight into your blood system, like the fructose and sucrose. So fiber, yeah, we need it. And I mentioned to you that it's helpful to clean out the colon with the fiber as well. Breast cancer, constipation, all those things. And then this is an interesting thing that I'm not sure if we see it on labels anymore. Let me see if I have anything nearby that has a label on it. But sometimes I have seen the glycemic index on a product. In other words, it'll tell how quickly that product that you ingest raises your blood glucose level. And depending on how much you have, the glycemic load just represents like per serving, or if you have two servings, then that would be the actual load. Okay, so you can see on this last bullet that it's the amount of carbohydrates in the food that you eat multiplied by the glycemic index of the food. Fats, also called lipids. We had talked about that with the high density lipids versus the low density lipids. And that they're really necessary. Again, that's a word that takes a bad rap, but we really need it to maintain healthy skin, insulate our body organs, maintain body temperature, promote healthy cell function, and it actually stores these vitamins A, D, E, and K. So you actually have to be kind of careful not to overdo it if you are taking supplements, any of the fat soluble vitamins, to make sure that you're not overdoing it. Because what will often happen is that if your body does need to call on those fat cells for a source of energy, then all those vitamins are coming out and can be actually toxic, like if you were to do. And that's another reason why not to do extreme dieting, that word that I also don't like, that 4-letter word. But yeah, dieting, meaning that you're trying to quickly lose weight. And this is one of the dangers that can happen, is that you are having your fat cells then release all these vitamins that have been stored. So just be careful on not overdoing your vitamins, supplements, if you are doing it. It's much better, as I probably already told you, and you may know intuitively, better to get your vitamins from the food itself. And there are arguments that, the food is not as nutrient rich as it used to be when the soils were much richer and we didn't have as much erosion or our farm products being sprayed with pesticides. And so, but yeah, it's a concentrated form of energy. So I think it's about, let's see, I'm trying to remember, I think fat has the highest amount of calories per gram versus per gram of the fat and protein comes next as the highest. And that I might have told you that one of the reasons that the Atkins diet, which is really, really high protein and includes fat, the reason it works is because it takes so much energy on our body's part to break it down, to use it. So you end up with a deficit, and that's how we lose weight. But you might also know that we have to worry about ketosis. There's too many ketones in your body that could also be toxic to your body. Okay, essential elements. Here we go. Triglycerides, cholesterol. We talked a little bit about that, and the inner walls of the arteries. I remember bringing that up with you, right? About how if you think about a pipe and it gets corroded on the inside, and after a while the water pipe cannot push water through. Same thing with our hearts. And then types of fat, saturated, unsaturated. Avoiding trans fatty acids, which are not allowed to be used in restaurants anymore. It's really bad for us. So eat fatty fish, use healthier oils, eat green leafy vegetables, eat walnuts and use walnut oil, and eat ground flaxseed. So the reason that you eat ground flaxseed is because the outer covering is not digestible. We don't break into it well. We don't have the right acids and enzymes to break down the outer covering, the flaxseed. So it's best to have it ground if you're going to go ahead and sprinkle it on salads or put in your soups. Use moderation with fat intake. And I already mentioned about farmers market, how important that is for us to be able to eat seasonally. Seafood, to check, did they actually give a website? Let's see. Seems to me that we brought that up too, about the website of where to look for the update on fish. What is the best kind of fish to have right now? Okay, talked about fat soluble, there's water soluble. So you don't have to worry about overdoing it with vitamin C. Your body's just going to take in as much as it really needs or can use. And then the rest will be come out of your urine. It would be actually waste. But we don't suffer very much in the United States from vitamin deficiencies, and that we have been accused by Europe in particular. I remember in France that I had a video in which somebody had talked about how we are over vitaminized, and there is a term for it. So here you go. Overusing them can lead to a toxic condition known as hypervitaminosis. So anytime it ends in osis, you know that it has to do with inflammation. Anytime a word ends in osis. Antioxidants, which I talked about. So there's carotenoids, which is in tomatoes, papaya, pink grapefruit, guava, and luteins, which are in the green leafy vegetables, and protects the eyes. Folate, a kind of vitamin B that is needed for DNA production, and deficiency can result. So a lot of times pregnant women are, the folate is included in the vitamins that people are, that women are taking as the baby is growing. And it does prevent spina bifida, which is when a child is born, there's the bottom of the spine is not fused and it's open. So there is a lot of danger there because of the exposure that the spine would have, and causing potential nerve damage. Water soluble guide. Lots and lots of them. And then we have minerals, the macro minerals, which are the bigger amounts that you get. Sodium, potassium. Potassium we get in bananas and watermelon. And then the trace minerals that we just need in a smaller amount. Sodium, necessary for regulation of blood and body fluid, transmission of nerve impulses, heart activity, etc. So that's why we have to stay hydrated, make sure we got those electrolytes. That is considered an electrolyte. And calcium, building strong bones and teeth, just like you probably heard. Iron. Definitely need iron. You know, iron is so crucial to being able to pick up. Each one of our blood cells has in the center a place to be able to pick up the iron. I'm sorry, the oxygen. The oxygen actually adheres to the iron, and then we're able to stay, well, our energy stays up as a result, because remember that aerobics is about oxygen, your ability to use oxygen efficiently. And so it's not just the lungs themselves being able to have, you know, pick up the oxygen from what we breathe in, but also be able to have that oxygen adhere to each one of the cells that go to the parts of our bodies that are working, the muscles, right? Okay, here's some of the major minerals and then trace minerals. Reading labels, I'd mentioned to you that I wondered if some of them have the let me see if it's in here. If it has the glycemic index. Let's see, we have calories, the breakdown of total fat, cholesterol, sodium, carbohydrate, protein, and then the vitamins at the bottom. No, not this one, anyone. Anyway, it doesn't have the glycemic index. Okay, so kind of like related to, again, the supersize me, you know, posting calorie counts on a menu, does it really help? I personally think it does, but I'm going to just give you my opinion. No, I won't. I'm going to go ahead and put you in groups and you can ask these questions to each other. How about that? And answer them. Let's see if I can copy this and then put it into our. Okay, I gotta stop sharing. Here we go. All right. I'll put this in the chat. I got a couple of comments in the chat too. Oh, Isabella, we lost you for a moment. Okay, hope you didn't miss too much. There we go. Okay, so these are the questions for you to be able to discuss with each other. And there we go. I'm gonna leave you on your own for, let's go for 10 minutes because this one's got a lot of questions, okay? And I'll be back in 10 minutes. Go for it. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm gonna try something. Let's see, who would be comfortable with being, let's have the first 5 minutes that somebody actually is the what do I say? Not moderator, that's not the word, facilitator of the conversation. And then the next 5 minutes that somebody else could take over. Do I have any volunteers for that? Okay, let's try for this week. Let's go with, Isabella's laughing. Okay, Isabella, you go the first 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then I'll have Joseph for the second half, okay? And then Jaylyn and Sebastian, Winter, Alexis, you can have another turn another time. How about that? All right, and I'll be back in 10 minutes. You all got the, you know what? I'll broadcast it too. It won't be just in the chat, but the questions will be also in the broadcast, okay? I'm gonna go for that next.
Okay, so do you guys have any ideas for the first question? Do you guys think that counting your calories helps? And do you think that there's anything else that could help keep in mind what's healthy and what's not?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people, or not like most people that are kind of serious about what they eat and stuff like that, whether they be like dieting or trying to, cut weight or maintain, like I guess calorie count is like really important. They track all of that. I got a lot of friends that they always track what they eat and stuff like that, and like sometimes like based on what they ate earlier in the day, they kind of adjust later on throughout the day what they eat. So, you know, like I guess, not everyone can, eat at home and stuff. Like sometimes, you know, like things can be different throughout the day. You gotta like eat out somewhere, and maybe, I guess like eating out with friends doesn't have to mean that, you kind of have to, throw all your, like throw all your regulation and all that stuff out the window. You can still kind of try to be responsible of what you eat if the if like menus have like calorie counts and stuff like that. I mean, already like I see fast food restaurants, they already have that stuff too. So I guess it's pretty helpful.
But don't you think that it's hard when you go out with friends, like because fast food or like healthy food in general,
Right.
majority of the times is more expensive. So
Yeah.
not everyone can. So I think that that's also part of the issue, like that healthy food should be cheaper so that more people can afford it.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point right there. Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to eat healthy, but like, come on, like, I mean, like, sometimes, like, when you look at the price, like, the, the less healthy food is like, looks like the better option, like, financially. Like, it's not always just about like health, like, that, you know,
Mhm.
helps our, just like, influences our decision. Like, sometimes, you're strapped in cash and you kind of have to go off of what looks like the better option there.
And do you think that it's like up to the restaurants to like let you know, hey, this is like not gonna be the best choice, but I'm still gonna try and sell it to you?
I mean,
Ah,
yeah, that's the thing. Like, you know, I mean, not all restaurants are going to be like going for like trying to make you eat the right thing. And, if you like order something that's like super nice and tasty, but not so healthy, I mean, they're not going to stop you. I mean, their job is to, offer, you know,
or for more of it.
yeah, offer the customer service that they got to provide. And, you know,
Yeah.
you want like that nice little, fatty thing, they'll be like, by all means, I'll have it with you in like 15 minutes. You know what I mean? So,
Yep. What do other people have any other opinions on this?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say regarding restaurants, I do see a lot of restaurants in terms of like calories, they put it on their like signs and menus and all that. So I think a good majority of them uh like try to help out. Like even some of the fast food restaurants even put it on like it's like tiny, you can barely see it, but like they try.
Yeah, you can barely see it. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone covered the health aspect of placing calories, but also I think it's kind of like, I guess, an economic. Well, you guys also mentioned the cost benefit, right? But also like economic, like how much calories you are getting per dollar. Like I guess that could help some people if they're like really like wanting to like maximize their money to like see if they're getting like the best for calories. Like,
Yeah.
they're getting something that has nutrients. Because the other part of the question is what other dietary information would help people make the healthiest choice. So probably something like, the grams of like protein or whatever, that sort of thing.
What do you guys think about the last question? Like, do you think that if the in the fast food the calorie count would be like bigger and you could see it and you were like more aware of it, do you think that it would change what you would choose to eat?
It depends on certain situations because it's kind of just. I mean, it used to stand out because it was kind of new, but now it's just kind of everywhere. So you kind of just tune it out
Yeah.
because you see it on the menu and it's just kind of just there. But like if you're going out, it's probably with the intention of just eating something good, like Sebastian has mentioned in the chat.
Yeah, I would do the same thing. I would just eat whatever I want to eat.
I think question 4 is actually kind of interesting, like, are you surprised by some of the calorie counts? And I think some of the, like when you're first noticing them, yeah, I think some of them are pretty surprising because it's just kind of like the simplest food. It has a lot of calories, but it doesn't like fill you up or like it makes you feel terrible if you go for a run or something.
I also think if you're like super cautious of calories and what you eat, if you're watching too much, it could like cause something bad, like an eating disorder if you're taking it too serious. So that's also another problem with like calorie counting and like just dieting in general.
So just a general trend of transparency, like of knowing what's going into your food. I think that's important. Like where are they sourcing it from? That's another thing to like answer the second part of question 1. And in terms of like who's responsible, like who should, I think it's kind of a two-pronged approach. You should try to be aware of where you're going, like what are their trends, like are they actually being truthful with their calorie counts? Are they estimating? Are they giving you like, are they showing you like a calorie count that's based on a very different portion that they serve, which is actually something that's common in some restaurants.
I also
Well,
doubt
it has,
the actual like calorie count is like precise because like I'm the kind of person like when I go and get a burger, right? For example, at a fast food, I'll change what I want in the burger, right? So the moment that you change what you want inside, it'll obviously change the calorie count as well, right? So how do they like keep it precise? That's my question.
actually, I think some places do account for that, unless you're like making some like big changes, but like for like smaller substitutions, they do account for those. But like if you're just adding like some vegetables or decreasing, that's kind of like pretty minimal amount. But I think they do take that into account. The menus have like a range. So if something is like 150 calories by itself, it'll say that. But like if it comes with something, it'll say 150 to like 200, with the usual like side or companion or condiment or whatever it is.
Yeah, also I think some restaurants are like required to put their calorie counts, but they're not like I think like the FDA regulates like the calorie counts, but they don't regulate like the accuracy of it. So I was watching this documentary, I think it was by Casey Neistat. Like he actually went to like this lab at like some college and actually like figured out like the true calorie counts and found out they were like skewed off by like hundreds of calories. So you can't really trust what you see even in person.
Okay, I'm back. You know what I'm thinking about is how pretty recently, I want to say within the last 3 years, that Glendale College brought Starbucks onto campus. We used to have a place right next to the health center that I think was run by Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. But now we have this entire, lounge area, which I love, or loved. Haven't been there in a couple years, but I began to think about how many calories are in those drinks. Some of the drinks that we're getting, we're thinking, well, it's just a drink. And then when the calories end up hitting close to 1,000, you're going, okay, that's half the calories that I need for the day. And was it nutrient rich? I just think that our environment does play a role in some of the choices that we make. You're hanging out in that area and you're smelling the coffee and you're seeing people with their frappes and the whipped cream on top, and yeah. So there's that. And yeah, but I think that you guys are all on the right track in terms of just being more savvy, being more aware of what your goals are, and what choices you might have out there. Maybe make exceptions once in a while, of course. It's not going to, we don't want to be so hard, fat, and hard on ourselves, let's say, to have to stick so diligently to one way of eating. Okay, when you come into other environments and maybe you're having a cultural experience with somebody else, and but I do have a friend who is a very, very strict vegetarian and keeps salt out of her diet and everything. And her cholesterol is something like 160, it's really down, and anything below 200 is good, but yeah, it's astounding, right, Isabella? So, but she did have a dad who was super obese. I'm not kidding, like hundreds of pounds. I don't even know how big, but when I went with her to visit him, yeah, he could barely move. He was just kind of sitting in his chair, and oh my goodness. So I think that she's the other extreme, staying very, very restrictive with her diet. So to each his own, but it's not the way that I believe that things are in balance. That your life is. When I say things, I mean all our dimensions of health. I think it is important to be open to other social experiences that may actually expand our horizons, So, well, thank you, Isabella. We'll get somebody else to lead next time. Thank you for all your input, everybody. And let's go back then to sharing the screen and go over. Let's see, we have about almost a half an hour, I think, left here. Here we are. Okay. Yeah, and I do think also that this last question about does seeing calorie counts affect your food choices? There are so many apps that people do use to keep track of their calories, and it is proven, that there is a real difference between being aware of what you're actually eating and not just going by how it feels, but being, having your head give some vote on what your choices are going to be, right? Don't just trust that, oh, I still have room, I can eat more, but say, okay. And you might have heard also that waiting 10 minutes after you have finished what you think is adequate, because a lot of times when you go into something hungry, your body has not, or your mind has not quite signaled or received the signal that, yes, this is enough. So it's good to pause and wait 10 minutes and see if you are satiated. Because it is a good idea, not to be completely full, like a lot of people do say that, like, oh, I'm full. Well, it's good to just be satisfied and then wait until your next meal when you will need to be replenished, you know. Let's see, so supplements, research on the daily dose. Yeah, I think I agree with this, that a multivitamin added to a balanced diet will generally do more good than harm. And again, if you go overboard with one particular vitamin or another, it's probably not a good thing. There's been a lot of research on the mind gut. I don't know if any of you are interested in that, but I'd love to hear it if you were in finding out about the relationship between, you know, how the gut and the amount of bacteria that we have in our gut actually affects the way that we operate, you know, intellectually, our brains, you know, that we do really are. In fact, after all, you know, we are one complete organism, not, you know, our systems do not operate totally independently of each other, even though we have different systems like the respiratory and the endocrine and the immunity and all that, right? Circulatory, but they're interdependent. So if you're interested in that, please go for it for your research paper. So back when these slides were made, that we called now it's Choose My Plate, but it was called My Pyramid. And basically what it does is look at both your physical activity and what your intake is in terms of food. So it hasn't changed much from this. You'll notice on the left that it has to do with the physical activity, right? And then, yeah, moderation, personalization, proportionality, variety, and gradual improvement is what this is all about. So, yeah. So really being more realistic about the serving sizes, being more discreet about what kind of calorie intake, you know, is it really that good that you're going to go ahead and ingest it for those extra calories because it was something exceptional, like my thing. It's rare, maybe once a year I get exposed to an opportunity. I'm given an opportunity to have creme brulee. And as you can probably guess, you know, that's pretty rich, but it is something that I will indulge in just because it's a kind of a rare thing to come across. It's sort of like flan in some way, but more liquid, more creamy somehow. Whereas flan, I think, is more eggy, you know. So, but I can tell myself, well, it's okay. I can go for this for today. I'm not going to be having this every day. I wouldn't want it every day because then it loses how special it really is. You know, it's a special occasion when I have it. And then physical activity, of course, and eating nutrient dense foods. So, and this is a serving size card, just as a rule of thumb, like if you were to have a cup of cereal, that a fistful is considered one serving. A pancake is the size of a compact disc, CD, if you remember what those are. It's been a while, right? And now we have MP3 and 4. And that one serving of rice, pasta, or potato is a half of a baseball. And a cassette tape, oh my gosh, okay. You guys, have you seen cassette tapes? Another one that's a thing of the past here. And a slice of cornbread is a bar of soap. So those are some good rules of thumb, you know, using your fist and imagining about the size of a baseball, that sort of thing. And then with the dairy and cheese, it gets even smaller. Look at that, a half a cup of ice cream. One serving would be a half a baseball. And that's not usual, unless maybe you'll get that side if you ask for the child portion, right? Oh, and you know what's not in here that I think is really handy is if you, this meat and alternatives, you know, as far as the 3 ounces of meat or fish, is just your palm minus your fingers. That's probably a good measurement, a good way to, when you go out to eat, if you want to know what is one serving, it's about the size of the palm of your hand. Yep, we all have different, men and women do have different needs. It's interesting that this is true, that many women report significant food cravings during the menstrual cycle, but also when they're expecting. You probably heard that. And it might sound like a tale of the past, but it really has occurred for people. And I sometimes wonder if it's their body's way of saying, I need a certain kind of nutrient. Like my sister who she craved raw potatoes. And I thought, what is in the raw potato? Is it, the peeling and everything. So I wasn't sure what it was, but I thought her body must need something. Vegetarianism, which we talked a little bit about, and the reasons that people actually, seek it, because of their love for animals and just wanting to improve their health. So they are actually more intentionally bringing in all those fruits and vegetables that we need. Concerns for the environment, all of those reasons there, weight loss, weight maintenance. Although I have to say that I have a friend who is a vegetarian that, she'll still eat a lot of high calorie things, like a lot of peanut butter. And not that peanut butter is bad. I'm just saying that it's about the portion sizes again, and, having candy bars and things like that. So even though they are vegetarian, it doesn't mean they're necessarily good for you, right? So got to have moderation. And then there's different types of vegetarian diets that you might have heard of that include eggs or don't include eggs, or includes milk or doesn't include milk. And pesco would be like includes fish, and then the semi. I really like the the Mediterranean diet that is referred to, because it does have a balance of everything, and it does focus a lot on the way people eat in the Mediterranean with olive oil and leafy vegetables and so forth. So if you're interested in looking into that one, I think, well, let's just take a look now. Let's see, we've got about 15 minutes, I think, 14 minutes to be precise. But let's see, I need to get out of this. Here we go. There we go. It knew what I was looking for. Okay, this is an ad though. I'm suspicious of the ads. Okay, here we go. So Mayo Clinic, that one I would trust. Okay, so the interest in the diet began in the 50s. Heart disease was not as common in Mediterranean countries. So since then, numerous studies have confirmed that the Mediterranean diet helps prevent heart disease and stroke. It's a way of eating based on the traditional cuisines of Greece, Italy, and other countries that border the Mediterranean Sea. Plant-based foods such as whole grains, vegetables, legumes, fruits, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices are the foundation of the diet, and olive oil is the main source of added fat. Fish, seafood, dairy, and poultry are included in moderation. Red meat and sweets are eaten only occasionally. So there's been said something a little bit about wine in the past too, that different studies have shown that it's a good, that it also helps with heart health. Let me go back to our Zoom here. And I think I need to quit sharing to be able to put this in the chat so that you have it. Okay, let's see. Sebastian wrote, I'd probably still just eat what I feel like eating. Go with your gut, literally and figuratively. Okay. And some musicians still release their music on cassette tapes. Oh, okay, that's cool to know. I know that my kids have really gotten into the turntable again, the LPs. And so I still have old LPs from my youth. And yeah, so they're into it again. But I didn't hear so much about cassettes, so that's kind of neat. Okay. Let's finish this up and then we'll meet on Wednesday. We just have 10 or 12 more minutes here. All right. And vegetarian diet, nutritional needs for people with different energy requirements, because it does depend on our basal metabolic rate. Also, meaning that when you're totally at rest, how many calories do you actually need? Does your body actually burn to be able to keep breathing, your heart pumping, and getting energy to your brain, all of those things. It's just metabolics, right? It's down to there being differences with people. And I might have mentioned that with extreme dieting, when people are suddenly like not taking anything in, and that yo-yo diet kind of thing, like you go back to eating and then your body thinks it's going to starve again. So it lowers the basal metabolic rate. So in other words, you're not burning as many calories as you might have had you not messed with the metabolics of starving yourself, and your body's saying, whoa, what's going on? I got to be prepared, for if this should happen again. And it's very archaic, it's something in the stem of our brain that wants to do that based on evolution. At least that's what the scientists are saying, right? That's based on evolution. But anyway, it's the way that we're wired, So there you go, with different, what you would require. And I would say your average person will probably right smack in the middle, like right around 2,400 calories per day that you need. And again, it depends on how much you're expending. And even when you're exercising, you might find that you get a little bit hungrier sooner because of the energy that was expended and you want to replace it. But if you are on a weight loss track, then you probably want to resist having keep your portion smaller, okay, and try to stick to that. But I would say the average is the 2,400. So you need 2 cups of fruits, to have a balanced diet, 3 cups of vegetables, 8 ounces of grains, so that can come in the form of oatmeal or whole grain bread, meat and beans, milk. But that's a lot of milk, 3 cups. But then it could be included in yogurt, and what else would we have that are milk products that people commonly eat? I guess cheese, but then there's also the fat portion of that, right? So it's not the best milk source. And a lot of people are actually replacing the milk with oat milk, and different things. People who have lactose intolerance or just preferences. So as far as what do we do to eat as a college student, how do we get along with having, many of us anyway have money that is short, as they say here. So asking for the analysis of items, which is what we talked about earlier, and order salads, but it's what you add to them that can really be not so great for you, especially if you like a lot of dressing. So maybe kind of find something that's a lower, not as heavy in the fats in your salad dressings. And maybe even just use olive oil and balsamic vinegar. That's always good. And sometimes I'll even add Dijon mustard and mix all those 3 together, and it makes a really nice vinaigrette. Limit beverages and foods. Yeah, why waste your calories on beverages? I'm thinking like sodas and maybe some juices. Instead of having the juice, have the fruit itself, right? And then adding a vegetable-based meat substitute into your fast food choices. That would be an interesting challenge, to find a vegetable-based meat substitute. I did, in raising my family, I had kind of a pattern where I would have red meat once a week, and chicken or fish on another day, and then something that's totally vegetarian, like what was the name of that casserole that I made? It had not split peas, but something else in it, and they really liked it a lot. It was almost like a little souffle. Foodborne illnesses, not keeping your high carbohydrates out there in the in room temperature. You want to keep it refrigerated. Oh, you probably heard about irradiation. How safe is it? I'd rather not mess with my food. I'd rather just have straight up farm grown produce, you know? Food additives, allergies and intolerance, organic. Did I already show you the PowerPoint from the dietetic intern? They had talk about organic versus inorganic. I mean, not organic, not inorganic, but not organic. Do you remember? Okay, let me see what that last question was. There was
I think
another.
you mentioned it, but I don't think you actually showed it to us.
No, but I talked about it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll show that on Wednesday too. Thank you. Okay, there's another thing in here that I thought would be a good question to discuss. What was it? No, it was before this. Yeah, food irradiation. Oh yeah, this one. Okay. That let's take the last few minutes then to just talk about what you do to try to save time and money as a college student and still eat as well as you can. So it'll be kind of a bridge from what you already discussed, but maybe be more specific about how you do that. Even look at this week. How are you managing? Okay, let's spend the next 3 or 4 minutes on that and then we'll close out. Okay. All right, so, Joseph, it's your turn then to be the facilitator. Are you okay with that?
Oh yeah, right on.
Okay, there you go. I'll be back in a few minutes.
All right, so we're gonna talk about you know how financial troubles or you know limitations can have an effect on the choices we make based on like what kind of foods we eat. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
All right, so okay, I guess we can talk about like you know like I know Isabel, you kind of mentioned how like you know yeah there's healthy foods out there, yeah, but you know sometimes they can get a little expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, like where do we even draw the line, you know? I mean, do we is I mean like I guess we can always try to be healthy, but when it means like you know it means like a sacrifice on one thing to get, you know, eat healthy, like where do we even draw the line there, you know?
I thought the question was more about like what are some of the strategies, like purchasing strategies of like buying food that's healthy and still kind of affordable. Like buying in bulk probably helps, but like it's not really helpful if you live by yourself. But if you can like buy something that doesn't really expire easily, like lentils or rice, like in bulk, it usually saves you money.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Probably like a cheap like a vegetable is spinach, and it's fairly easy to like cook, and it holds for a long time. And it pretty much gives you most of the nutrients you need. Eggs is pretty cheap protein as well. Like if you know if you don't go crazy with soup, you know you can just find some pretty cheap eggs. They're really subsidized by the U.S. government to make them cheap, so we should be able to find fairly cheap eggs. They are getting pricier though.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think the cheapest eggs I saw during like pandemic craze was like 75 cents, and it was like at an Aldi's or something. But I don't think they were organic or something, or cage free.
What about red meats? Because like I know they can, you know, become a little expensive at times. It's hard to find good deals on meat these days, but you know.
Oh, we just eat less of it. And like we do buy something that it's actually pretty good. You know, splurge on that, but I'm only buying something that's good, you know, just eat something that's just random. Like the cheapest meat you can find is probably not gonna make you feel good.
Well, yeah, most likely.
But I mean, you probably the cheapest cuts are like what, flank, and then probably get some like ground beef with high fat content, which is pretty good for pasta if you make it. Those are like the cheap meats for red meats.
I mean, red meat is pretty expensive. Like if you go like the issue is also where you buy red meat. Like you can't just buy it like at any supermarket. You have to buy it at like Whole Foods or like a good supermarket, or else like it won't be like quality meat. And then if you don't get quality meat, then it's like it's gonna be bad for your body. And so like then it just becomes more expensive, you know.
Okay, we are at 3:10 now, and I just want to remind you that we do have the food pantry on campus. If you ever need food that is affordable, I'm telling you, they'll give you so many points somehow. I don't know how the point system works today, but there are ways to get some really good food because Trader Joe's does donate, and I forget the other sources that we get it from, but we started that program how long ago now? I think it was right before we started the student equity program that I told you about. And a group of us got together and said, let's do something about the food shortage for our students. So it grew and it's been wonderful. So if you want to take advantage of that, and again, I think that going to the 99-cent store where they do have organic produce and they have, I think, organic meats. I can't remember now if I found some there, but milk products and things like that. So keep those as sources in mind. There is a 99-cent store on, is it Glen Oaks? It's like North Glendale area that I went to.
That's where I live.
Yeah, it's kind of near Burbank. You're kind
Yeah,
of on
it's
yeah,
right on the line. Yeah.
Yeah.
The 99-cent
yeah.
store has like good selection of like vegetables because it's kind of like the stuff that you'd find like in your normal like standard
Really?
grocery stores, but like not the meats. I never seen meats in the 99-cent store.
I've never even
Yeah.
found good vegetables there, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, well, I did. Actually, it was only about 2 months ago that I was there and picked up asparagus and things like that. So yeah, it was a good deal. I went back a second time. So, all right, well, I will let you go. Let's continue this and keep sharing your ideas about where you do get good food for reasonable prices, and keep in mind the food pantry, okay?
Thank
And
you.
we'll see each other on Wednesday. All right, thank you all.
Goodbye. Take care.
Bye-bye, you too.
Yep.